cultfigga TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Mean of Revolution, and a serial killer is stalking the streets of Houston. 23rd body pulled from the Bayou. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Where the mayor, the city council, the police chief, are they in on it? Is the police officer? What the hell is going on in Houston? Let's backtrack and see. Let's go back a couple of weeks and see what exactly when people start paying attention to this. Salute.
Hold on, bro. 2025 has already been horrible, but apparently it just keeps getting worse. Apparently there's a serial killer located in Houston now. And we are just hearing about this because apparently the latest victim is someone who was very beloved, and the family made this news headline go viral, and now it's national news now.
Our Fox 26 count is now at 13 bodies found in Houston bayous this year by law enforcement and first responders. Remember, the 22 bayous are spread out for miles, so it's a lot of ground to cover, and that comes with tough investigations.
I don't want to hear suspicious when you talk about 13 dead bodies. It's urgent. This needs to be figured out immediately. There's a serial killer on the loose. Now, we only know about this because the latest victim is a college student by the name of Jade McKissick. Now, who was found in the Houston Bayou as well. Now, here's the thing, though. Her disappearance is odd, and it was all caught on camera.
Authorities say surveillance video appears to have captured the last moments of 20-year-old University of Houston student Jade McKissick's life. She was found dead yesterday after being reported missing earlier this month. Out of respect for Jade and her family, KPRC2 News will not air the entire clip. KPRC2 News reporter Rochelle Turner returned to the scene where Jade McKissick was last seen to retrace her final moments. She's joining us now live with the latest. Rochelle?
Daniela, there's still more questions than answers. We've been at this gas station you see right here behind me all day, and people have been asking us about Jade, telling us that they've been seeing her story all over the news. But Jade was seen right here in this parking lot. These were the last moments that anyone seen her. And we saw surveillance video. I'm going to cross the street safely to show you just how this all kind of played out. We do know that this is still under investigation.
This has to be foul play. Now, there are people who are pointing towards maybe this was intentional, this was self-deletion, she did this intentionally. Nobody in the world is choosing drowning as their last day. I'm sorry, bro. Right? Nobody is doing that, bro. Not drowning. Not that much pain. And who says, let me buy a drink if you're planning to do that? Like, that's not what's going through your mind. Now, apparently she left the bar and came here. Now, the other theory is, man, she was just too sloppy drunk. She walked right into the river. Cut it out, bro. She was able to walk to that gas station, knowing where she was going, pay for her merchandise, walk out, and was able to keep walking. She wasn't sloppy, drunk over, bent over. This is, to me, this is a homicide. This is a murder investigation. I don't care what the autopsy say.
But video shows her walking towards Bayou, which is right over here. And at this hour, police tell us that her death is under investigation. There's no foul play and no trauma, but it's still a lot of questions surrounding her death. We do know that she came here to that gas station. She went inside to purchase a beverage, and then she walked right over here. But we just don't know exactly how she died. We've been speaking to people all day, some of them saying something's just not adding up. Others say that there's been a lot of deaths here in Bayou. So we did reach out to Houston police for more information, but right now they tell us that it's still under investigation. This is Jade Sage McKissick. The 20-year-old University of Houston student was last seen on September the 11th around 1 o'clock in the morning. right along North McGregory Way in 3rd Ward. According to Houston police, he had spent the evening with friends at local bars and then left by herself and also left her cell phone. From there, she walks to this gas station. The clerk showed us video of her going inside and getting a slushie. She walks out these doors and walks into the parking lot. And this picture from surveillance shows Jade circled in green in the far right corner of your screen. It's the last time she was seen, according to police. It shows her walking towards Brays Bayou. To give you some perspective, the gas station is about 100 yards away from Brays Bayou. I'm going to actually walk and see how long it takes me to get there. That video was sped up, but it took me about 27 seconds to walk from the front entrance to the intersection of McGregor Way and Scott Street. This camera right here at the end of the gas station shows Jade walking towards the left of the bayou, and then she goes out of frame.
Police departments are naturally lazy. What's more convenient for them? To write this off as, hey, man, this chick did this to herself, or to try to investigate or piece together 12 homicides that was found in LA. They probably don't want to do the work to investigate a serial killer and trace every lead. But what we're not going to do, we're not going to go by this theory of, hey, because Jade posted a couple of cryptic messages on her Instagram, that this means she wanted to do this to herself. You guys want to know the cryptic message the police believes that this is a sign that this was something intentional that she inflicted on herself? Let's take a look.
Sometimes I see myself failing in the future and it worries me, but people always tell me I have nothing to worry about. She went on to say, I'm always giving solid, sound advice to people, and y'all still don't listen. My grandma told me I'm wise beyond my years, and if you know Black grandmas, this is a high honor. Then y'all want to come crying to me when stuff comes falling to your knees. I literally have no pity. She made another confession, and she said, listen up. Y'all gonna hate me for this one, but I peep everything. Game recognizes game. If you think you got one over on me, think smarter. She also said, whenever I go home, I usually go in my room in the dark and cry. I don't cry often, and I never have a long time until I go back home. You can imagine how stuff accumulates. And then she said, I wish I could go back and tell myself something at every age. Knowing what I know now, I could have saved myself from a lot of stupid decisions. And Jade's confession number 7 was, I usually hate people, but I can't live without my mom, dad, or grandma. If they gone, just take me out. I promise you I won't care. Now, Jade's family and friends have come forward to say that they do not believe that there was no foul play involved in her death because she was a happy 20-year-old girl and she had a very promising future. She went out with friends and they planned on going to different bars. From there, Jade ends up leaving the bar to go to the gas station to get a drink, which her family doesn't understand. Because if she was at a bar where there were drinks available, why would Jade leave the bar where she was at with friends and leave her cell phone?
Her leaving her cell phone, the only thing I read into that is she was drunk. But her being drunk doesn't really mean anything in this situation. All that really means is she was an easier victim. Drunk people are more susceptible to being victimized, especially drunk women, because she wasn't drunk enough to where she got lost. She went directly to that gas station, bought her drink, and walked out. That tells me more about the people around her. You came to the bar with your friends, and your friends allowed you to leave the bar without your cell phone. They allowed you to walk away on your own and leave without checking up on you. Well, like, what type of friends were you with? Now, the one thing I do want to give credit to here is the family of Jade. The family ain't letting the police just pin this off as no foul play. Man, this was intentional, nothing to look at. No, the family is putting pressure on the police to do their job. Jade's cousin posted, sadly, my cousin was apparently murdered. So they believe she was murdered. They don't believe this is some type of just by chance fate. No, she was murdered. Somebody intentionally inflicted harm on her. May she rest in peace. Her parents are distraught, of course, not just because she was their only child. Jade was a rare gem indeed. She was an outstanding student at the University of Houston where her father taught. She was loved. This was a woman who was living with a purpose. This was somebody who had a strong family structure, it would appear, right? Because even in the quote-unquote messages they're claiming may have hinted towards a mental state, she was even saying, yo, my parents gave me a lot of advice that I didn't follow. She knew she was loved. She came from a household of love. This is someone from a prominent household. This isn't somebody who had nothing to live for. This is someone who apparently had a very bright future from the looks of it. Another person wrote, I'm so hurt, my pretty girl. You did nothing to deserve this, I promise. This is so wrong. You did nothing to nobody. Now, this person also begins to question the people around her and the people she came to the bar with. She wrote, this is so wrong. You did nothing to nobody. Why did they let you leave by yourself or without your phone? Oh my God, I've been high off my ass the past couple of days from keeping me from crying because this hurts so bad. This feels so wrong. Then put your body by the bayou like you're nothing. Then whole time you're so much more. I can't stomach the pain you were feeling and worrying, anxiety high with no phone or nobody to hear or help you. You really effed up my head. This one, I ain't lie. The same cousin would also say something that a lot of people, including myself, is kind of looking at, which is there may be a serial killer. Not even maybe. There's probably certainly a serial killer out there. If 13 was discovered by the Bayou, bro, that ain't no coincidence. 13 people ain't just accidentally drowning, bro. Cut it out, right? You know, like that don't happen by no lakes. Yes. So she wrote, yes, some suspected serial killer may have taken my cousin Jay's McKissick's life. We truly don't know. There's some odd circumstances surrounding her death with regard to people who were supposed to be her friends. Help find a long time. This is very similar to that one. Both their friends failed them. Now, Kanika may be a little bit more gory. Like the Kanika case may be a little bit more like complex. Because with Kanika, there were rumors that Kanika is screaming in the background, and her friends is like putting up the speaker to drown out her screaming while she was in the other room with other men, and men may have taken advantage of it. It was a huge deal when the Kanika Jenkins thing happened. Now, she never really got justice. The police to this day claim, she walked into that freezer and, she was able to freeze to death. Even though the freezer don't lock from within, you can open up the freezer from within. So Kanika apparently walked into that freezer, was cold as heck, and just let herself to freeze to death instead of just opening up the freezer door. This situation right here is very similar. This little girl who was perfectly healthy, had a lot to live for, left the bar with her friends to grab something to drink, and then began to walk directly into a lake and drown on purpose? Excuse me? Is that the story y'all are telling here? It doesn't make sense at all, bruh. At all. Now, Houston students, though, or students from the University of Houston, they're speaking on this, and they are not buying like the police story as well. They believe there's something scary going on here, and they believe that everybody is at risk because the pathway that she was killed on, that pathway is a pretty common pathway. That gas station is pretty common among students.
The thing that's really fucking me up about this Sage situation, rest in peace to that young soul, the nightmare realization of how routine that route is for a college student that goes to UH or TSU. You know how many of us back in the day, I just graduated, would go to LA Burger and Daiquiris on a weeknight, bro? That is common. To think that common route led to a young woman in a river, bro, like, this shit is not normal. In the USCSU area, do you know how many potentially oppressive people are around here, bro? Between the weirdos, the potential criminals, and the homeless people, you don't know who is who. This area is just really effed up, bro.
Y'all let me know, man. What do y'all think? Hey, the info is in front of y'all, okay? Y'all love to call me a conspiracy theorist, Flacco, you a pessimist. It's always this is bad, Flacco. It's always bad news. Where's the good news at Flacco? How would cover the good news if there was good news, bro? But ain't nothing funny about the
there's some really sketchy stuff going on in Houston. Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer, everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Okay, so I saw this headline and wanted to watch this news clip with you guys, but then I also wanted to bring in some older information. Hey guys, future me popping in real quick. There's been some updates to this story. There's actually been 2 more bodies pulled from this exact same type of area in Houston. So I'm gonna go ahead and let my original video play, and then I will be popping back in at the end for the updated information. Now, most of you guys have heard about the possible serial situation going on in Austin, Texas, around Lady Bird Lake. There's been a lot of videos about that, a lot of police reports, a lot of very similar things when it comes to the people that are being found in the water and their causes of death, the stories that led up to other things, going into certain bars on 6th Street, and other very similar situations that have pretty much all come down to, yeah, Austin most likely has a huge issue. Well, Houston, Texas, they are not new to serial killers. There's actually been several that have made their way through Houston, operated in Houston. Outside of Houston is also where the Texas killing fields are actually located. A lot of you have probably heard about that as well. Now, there's this other situation now happening to where lots of bodies are being pulled out of a certain area. I just don't know if this is a serial situation or if this has just become a place where people just dump people, because these bayous being used for bodies to be dumped in, that's not a recent situation. Now, this video was posted on September the 18th. I'm recording this on September the 22nd. I want to go through this one with you guys, and then I'm going to show you another one that shows that this is not a new situation. This has been going on for over a decade. Houston is very aware, and obviously they don't care enough to do anything to try to stop it, to try to see what's actually going on. They're not doing anything preventative.
Our top story here tonight, the bodies being found in Houston bayous. Houston police report another body was just recovered today from the Buffalo Bayou area near Jensen and East downtown. So if you've been watching and keeping track alongside us, that is 4 bodies recovered in 4 days.
4 in 4 days. That's wild.
Today is Thursday, and sadly, a U of H student has been identified as one of the bodies recovered from the Bayou area on September 15th. That's Monday. She was reported missing days before.
Many have made some speculations online about something maybe more nefarious happening here, and that's understandable. Our Fox 26 count is now at 13 bodies found in Houston bayous this year by law enforcement and first responders.
13 people. That's crazy.
Remember, the 22 bayous are spread out for miles, so it's a lot of ground to cover, and that comes with tough investigations.
They are separated out.
Here's what we know. HPD confirms a male body was recovered from Buffalo Bayou on Jensen Street in Edo on Thursday. Our camera caught officers and a dive team on the scene around 3 p.m. There were reports of a man jumping into the water there. We're waiting to hear more on this. And remember when we reported 2 bodies recovered from local bayous on Monday, September
2 bodies at the same time. 2 bodies on the same day. Holy crap. Hold on, guys. Before we get into the rest of the video, I have to introduce you to today's video sponsor, Aura. You guys know that even after my free trial was done with Aura, that I continue to use this service, pay for it out of my own pocket, because I appreciate just how true to what they advertise they actually factually are. Aura allows you to get real-time alerts anytime that your information is found on the dark web, anytime anything that seems like it might be fraudulent shows up on your banking account or credit reports. You also can make sure that you keep track of what your kids are doing online, and you can mask your location with their VPN. Now, most of you guys have also heard me state everything about you is worth millions to literally everyone but yourself. Let me show you what that looks like. Check out this redacted report. This is just an example of what your information can possibly look like on one of these brokerage sites. Your name, your date of birth, your exact age, your address, anytime you've ever had another name, like if you were adopted or if you got married, divorced, any of your possible matches for phone numbers, any and all of your email addresses, and you know the information that we've been learning about genealogy in the Idaho 4 student murder case. They even pull up your possible relatives on here so that people can see who you might be related to and go through other means to try to track you down before actually getting to you because of all these other people's information that can be attached to yours. And look at this, not just relatives, but even possible neighbors from previous addresses that you had. So associates from jobs, other possible usernames from social media websites, or anything else that you might have actually been on the internet, even past vehicles, and even if you used to own a boat. That's crazy. Don't leave yourself vulnerable any longer. Click on the link in my description box or go to aura.com/Jules. That's AURA.com/JULEZ and get 2 weeks free on me. Take Aura for a spin and see how much of your information is really out there. You're going to be unpleasantly surprised, but luckily Aura can help you deal with that situation. So again, click on the link in my description box to get 2 weeks free on me, or go to aura.com/Jules. Now back to the video.
One of them was identified as 20-year-old Jade Sage McKissick. She was a U of H student, reported missing on September 11th, last seen that day near the 3700 block of McGregor by a restaurant. We're talking about a lot of bodies in a city where many people walk, run, and bike the Bayou areas every day.
Yeah.
So we visited an area near the White Oak Bayou to see how people have been reacting to the discoveries. A lot of people are just wondering, what's the deal? HPD hasn't
You can tell dude was just like on a run and just got interrupted. He's trying to catch his breath.
really given us a lot of information either. What questions do you have?
I mean, is there like somebody paying attention to these? Like, is there like more details to investigation? I don't know. It's just kind of like, scary at this point, when it's that many coincidences. There's not such a coincidence that happens multiple times.
There's long-term plans and there's short-term plans. I would hope that the short-term plans are in effect.
Let me explain to you why I don't believe that that's the case. Not only is that the situation that we're basically seeing over in Austin when it comes to the Lady Bird Lake situation, because this situation with all of these bodies being pulled out of the bayous at the same time and it causing a chaotic reaction to the residents and the surrounding area, this isn't the first time. It's not going to be the last time either, I'm afraid. Now, as you can see, this video was posted 6 years ago, so in 2019. What they're going to talk about are vehicles that were pulled out of the bayou back in 2015 by the hundreds. This is a situation that has been going on for years and years and years. And just like how it seems Austin is downplaying everything, and again, I don't know if there's been any updates over the past few months to what's been going on in Austin when it comes to them trying to be proactive and preventative. I don't know if there's updates on that stuff. But you can see that this was a major problem, a major concern 6 years ago and further. And they still have not done anything to help prevent the situation. Lights, guardrails, cameras, drones flying overhead for patrol purposes. I understand if they don't have the manpower to be driving around all the bayous every single day and night. Okay, I get that.
Yes, they
put
do.
Stationary cameras, put motion sensor cameras, put game cameras, put drones up in the sky, give them a trajectory and a time frame, schedule them to go out and handle business, keep your people safe. But I will remind you, before we get started with this video, let me also remind you what Houston really is.
These people got all our money to send to Ukraine, all our money to send to Israel.
Some of you guys will remember me talking about this. Some of you, it might be the first time that you've heard it. Feel free to go and do your own due diligence on this because this is a true story. Houston released, got rid of, pushed aside, erased, deleted over 250,000 SA and the like cases over a period of a few years because of the lack of manpower. And the victims in these cases were not even told anything. They weren't told that the person was let out of jail. They weren't told that all of these charges were freaking dropped. They weren't told a word. It just all happened and the crime statistics got lied about. So whenever these 250,000 cases did not hit the system, it makes Houston look like it's a hell of a lot safer than it actually is. And again, They're not only lying to their civilians, they're lying to the people that they're supposed to protect, but they're not actually doing anything to truly protect them. They're not doing the preventative things. They're not making sure that they have the manpower back in place. What are you doing? What are you doing with all of this money that y'all keep getting for things? It's not going where it's supposed to. Okay, let's see what they were saying 6 years ago.
Beneath the murky and slow-moving current of Houston's bayous are secrets buried deep underwater. Junk, abandoned cars, and even bodies. In 2015, Channel 2 Investigates discovered hundreds of vehicles submerged in local bayous.
Hundreds a decade ago. They've had 10 years to come up with that short-term and that long-term plan that dude was talking about. Do you see them implementing anything? No, not at all.
We really began looking into it, and 3 years later, the story is more grim. Dozens of people found dead along waterways in Harris County since 2015. Investigator Joel Eisenbaum discovered at least 40 cases. Tonight, he's telling their stories and revealing the deadliest stretch of water in the county.
Any crime scene that has a bridge, you just automatically know it's going to be one of the worst you've literally ever heard in your life.
Summer.
I heard someone screaming, "Help me!"
On Greens Bayou, 58-year-old Rebecca Sue Heinrich was found in the water, dismembered. The same month on Brays Bayou.
I was like, I think.
Now, I will say right now we're covering and following a story of a singer that goes by the name David. He's from the Houston area, and a 14-year-old girl's body was just found dismembered in the trunk of his Tesla that's registered to a county around Houston because that's where he's from. That just reminded me of that. So I just want to throw that out there. If you guys don't know about that story, or if you've been following along and want to see what my take is about it, I will have a link for that story down in the description box of this one.
On Buffalo Bayou, and then Sims Bayou. In July,
and look at that. You saw how dark that was? Go back.
Sims Bayou.
Look how dark this is right here. Why is there no lights where this bridge is, where there's water? There should be lights right here. This is wildly ridiculous.
In July, 4 bayous with 4 bodies that got us thinking.
Okay, so we just had 4 pulled out in a week in the beginning of September. But back in 2019, they had 4 in July. That is wild.
Channel 2 Investigates, led by Texas EquiSearch CEO Tim Miller, has.
If y'all know anything about the Texas killing field story, then you recognize his face. This guy does amazing work.
Ventured into Houston's murky depths before.
I believe it was May the 12th of 2014 when Channel 2 broke the news with Joel Eisenbaum.
A few years ago, Miller's team discovered and mapped the staggering number of sunken cars hidden in our.
Y'all see that freaking map? Oh my God. That is so unbelievable.
Cars hidden in our bayous. Now, Channel 2 Investigates is mapping the bodies. In Harris County alone, we discovered at least 40 dead people have been pulled.
Wow.
From our bayous since 2015.
It's stunning. I mean, I'm almost speechless.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of it.
Of the 40, we found only 6 were clear-cut homicides. In twice as many cases, the manner of death remains undetermined.
You see, that's the problem with water, and that's why a lot of sadistic people choose water, because of the damage that it does to being able to find the truth.
Autopsy records show the greatest share of victims met their end by accidental drowning.
After taking a closer look at the numbers, it would in fact appear that most of the people who die in our bayous don't die by murder, but sometimes by misadventure.
My brother's name is Michael Edwards.
I mean, okay, I'll say this though. No one looks at that water and says, oh, that looks great, let me go for a swim. Everyone that lives in these areas knows, especially in the bayou areas, you're going to come across some gators. You're going to come across some things you don't want to come across.
That's pretty much devastated.
In February, 59-year-old Michael Edwards, a carpenter by trade, apparently lost his footing and slipped into Bray's Bayou.
There was a witness that saw him go into the bayou, but by the time they couldn't find him.
But losing your footing, I can see that. I can definitely see that. I know that in certain areas that are very much like this, that me and my dad go fishing in whenever he's visiting, we go all over the place. We cover miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of different little water spots. And they all have the same green, slimy stuff on the edges. So I can imagine that. But for people to just be like, oh, they went into the water. No, they didn't. Not by choice. But accidents like this, I can definitely understand.
Did. Edwards had drowned along a curious stretch in southeast Houston. Since 2015, 7 other bodies have surfaced in the same 3-mile section of Bray's Bayou. It's an area we know well.
It's just curious to me that these bodies are found in the same stretch where all those Bayou cars are.
I wonder if it is a coincidence. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to put my boat in the water right now that we came up with this information.
With the busy Gulf Freeway on one end, where 40-year-old Douglas Mills was and dumped in April, this area is well-traveled, with easy access for most.
Yeah.
Heartbreak for some.
I still have trouble believing it.
That's just insane to me, that there's been so many problems for so long. Houston is well aware. Houston's choosing to do literally nothing. Houston, you are literally your own problem. Now I'm seeing that around September the 20th, there was a 5th body found. Let's take a look at this.
And tonight, Houston police are investigating after a body was found in Buffalo Bayou. It's the 5th person found in the waters around Houston in just the past week. Causes of death so far include drowning.
So let's look. Okay, Monday was right here and right here. Remember, there was 2 on Monday. That's whenever I did that video to begin with. Now we have Tuesday, a whole nother person, and then Thursday, another person. Insane stuff.
And natural causes, though in some cases, we're still waiting on a cause from the medical examiner's office. In today's case, officers got a call just before 8:30 this morning. A report came in of a body floating near North York Street in 2nd Ward. Police sent their dive team, which eventually found the body. It's being taken to the medical examiner's office to determine the cause of death.
Wild, absolutely insane. Okay, now that's number 5. There's been another one. We're at number 6. Now this report here is from September the 26th, but this body was found on September the 25th. It's been 2 whole days. Right now it is September the 27th. Since this happened, they're finding a lot and they're finding them really quickly. It's getting out of hand.
Residents are demanding more surveillance along our bayous after another body is found in a Houston waterway.
Police say a woman's body was found in Buffalo Bayou near Milam Streets downtown last night. This is the 6th body recovered in less than 2 weeks from bayous across town.
Yes, because there was 4 in like 4 days. See, there was 2 on Monday the 15th, then we had the 16th, then we had the 18th, then we had the 20th, and now we have this one. There was 4 in 4 days, and now that's 6 in less than 2 weeks. I know, like I showed before showing this, that this area has just been known for bodies. But this amount like this, I mean, it's worrisome. It is.
Yeah, Len, our comment sections on social media are filled with people saying more surveillance cameras are needed along the bayou. City leaders tell me that's just not feasible, but criminal justice experts say cameras might be the best way to prove what city officials and police have been saying all along, that
it's not feasible. Yes, it is. Y'all get money constantly, all the time, and y'all end up doing stupid shit with it that doesn't literally do anything for anyone but the people in office. It just goes in their pockets for the most part. Yes, cameras are very feasible, and it's the cheaper way to do things. See the excuses? There's always excuses.
no serial killer is on the loose.
I mean, again, I know that this area is infamous for situations, But they cannot sit here and pretend like the amount that this is happening isn't something to be concerned about. I do recall the situation in Portland, them telling the public that, you know, it was irresponsible for us to be saying that they had some sort of serial situation. And then it turns out that the public was right. So I don't know what to think right now.
Another body found in Houston's bayous. Police say a woman was spotted in the water near Commerce and Millam Streets around 11:30 last night.
Officers were alerted to this by people that were riding by on scooters, and when they noticed something that appeared to be a body.
This is the 6th body recovered in bayous in less than 2 weeks.
These are kind of far apart right here. These are all real close, though. These are different. I don't know. It's just crazy.
It's the work of a serial killer. City leaders saying earlier this week that's not the case.
There is no evidence that there's a serial killer loose on the streets of Houston.
Yeah, but this is coming from the exact same Houston that dropped 250,000 cases, never alerted the victims, and lied about the crime in their city for years. I don't trust anything these people say. I just don't.
KHOU 11 viewers, Hannah, Lucy, and Chris, all commenting on our posts online, asking for more surveillance cameras by the water. I brought that to City Council member Carolyn Evans Shabazz.
A lot of people have come to us asking for more surveillance by the water. Is that something the City Council is looking into?
I have heard that suggestion, but I don't know how we could implement that. To say that we can install cameras, we would have no idea where to put them.
Yeah, you would. There's plenty of places they can be placed. It wouldn't be up to you, Miss Madam. It would be up to the people that actually go out there and look at vantage points. What do you think game cameras are for? There's plenty of places that cameras can go. I knew it was going to be some sort of lame-ass excuse from somebody who wouldn't even be a part of the entire operation to begin with.
Because we don't know where the bodies went into the bayou.
To be honest, serial killers are very rare.
How important is it to try to show that to people who are convinced there is a serial killer?
I think it's very important. Obviously, when you have these bodies showing up seemingly all at once, there's obvious concern.
Yeah.
The camera might actually capture where an individual falls into the bayou or has an accident or is intoxicated or whatever, because that's likely what is happening.
I don't know. All I know is that it's happening really, really rapidly over the past 2 weeks. Even with the history, it's really becoming a really big problem. Now, do you guys remember this face from earlier on in the video? This is Jade McKissick. She was the 4th body in 4 days that was actually pulled from one of the Houston bayous. They have a little bit more information about the area that she left, the situation that took place. It's a little bit odd because what they're going to tell you here in this little clip that I'm going to play is that she was at a local bar with some of her friends, just hanging out. Apparently everything was fine. She left that bar, went next door to this little gas station, apparently purchased a drink, and then took off walking in the direction of the bayou that she was later found in 4 days later. But the weird part is that she apparently left her phone at the bar. And I just find it really strange that somebody that age, you know, college age, always on your phone, always on the phone. I find it odd that she left the bar and was able to go into that store, walk around, purchase whatever drink she was purchasing, and then leave, and instantly just actually leave, not backtrack to the bar to pick up her phone that she left or anything like that. But none of her friends noticed that she left her phone and like chased after her to be like, hey girl, you left your phone, or anything like that either. It's okay.
So according to Houston police, she was last seen at a bar and restaurant right along this area. She was there with some friends. From there, she left that restaurant and left her phone and then walked right over here to the Shell gas station. Police say that she purchased a drink and then she walked right out here beyond this gas station, and right on the other side of this gas station is Bray's Bayou.
I'm really curious as to if there's anything matching in these cases that they're just not telling the public, because we know that they like to lie. They don't like to tell people the truth. Who knows what's really going on here? But I do want to know what you guys are thinking about all of this crazy stuff down in the comments. Do you think
Now this one, this was on the news today. I picked this one up today for us.
For joining us for KPRC 2 News at 10, I'm Keith Garvin.
Good evening, I'm Daniela Guzman. Only on 2 tonight, the sister of a man found dead in a Houston bayou is speaking out tonight, demanding answers. 35-year-old Anthony Curry, well, he is one of 23 bodies discovered just this year.
City leaders insist there is no serial killer despite rumors swirling online. KPRC 2's Jaewon Jung spoke with Curry's family, who say they are not convinced. Jaewon.
Yeah, good evening to you guys. The sister of Anthony Curry tells me she was shocked. Her brother's body was found in the bayou in May. And now, as more discoveries have happened in the bayou, she's demanding a full investigation.
My brother was like my superhero.
A brother, a son, and a father. Alexis Curry is remembering her late brother, Anthony Curry.
Can you show us your tattoo?
I sat there and got that pain for my brother. He was really focused on being better for him and his son.
Curry is one of 23 bodies found in the bayou so far this year. Since KPRC2's last report, we've learned the names of 3 more victims are Michaela Miller, Arnulfo Alvarado, and Seth Hansen. While many causes of death remain pending, Curry's death was ruled an accidental drowning with PCP and ethanol found in his system.
That ain't my brother. He'll come to my house, go to my sister's house, so he'll go somewhere and chill off before he just go jump in some water.
Alexis tells me she's still trying to piece together what happened, and the last time she's heard from Houston police was in July.
So far, autopsies have not shown any evidence of foul play.
Last month, city leaders shut down rumors about a serial killer being connected to the bodies.
Many victims may be from vulnerable populations, including unhoused.
And your brother wasn't homeless?
No, he was not.
Alexis tells me her brother was living with his girlfriend about 5 minutes away from where his body was found. She says he was working as a barber and also in construction.
We still don't know nothing, and it's been months.
Do you feel like you're left in the dark?
I really do.
Now back out here live, authorities say there were 24 bodies found in the bayou in 2024. Now, as investigations continue, you can see just how dark it gets here at night. Officials are continuing to urge vigilance in and around the bayous. We're live at Buffalo Bayou Park. Jaewon Jung, KPRC 2 News.
Has been pulled from one of the city's bayous, sparking new fears online of a so-called bayou killer. Police say there is no serial offender at large, but with social media buzzing and multiple deaths this year, questions are just mounting. We are going to get to the bottom of what is happening in Houston's waterways with a former FBI and CIA agent. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. And this is another law and crime legal alert. There are allegations claiming that online apps like DraftKings, ESPN Bet, BetMGM, Bet365, Fanatics Sportsbook, Caesars Sportsbook, that they are engineered for addiction. These multi-billion-dollar companies allegedly continue to put profit over safety. Every small payout, free bet, boosted parlay can trigger a dopamine rush that creates dependency and a destructive habit. They can keep users hooked and trap people in a cycle that can lead to serious financial loss. While our legal sponsors are taking on the to file a claim. We're back on Sidebar asking the same chilling question that we faced the last time this story made headlines. Is there a serial killer in Houston? Social media is buzzing again after yet another body was discovered in a local waterway this week. Police maintain there is no evidence of a serial killer on the loose, but speculation online, it shows no sign of slowing. And can you blame them? Some have already dubbed the mysterious figure the Bayou Killer. Honestly, it reads like the opening scene of a true crime documentary, but I will tell you, for Houston residents, it's a frightening reality. Maybe not of a serial killer per se, but it's a scary thought about what may be happening here. Just when the rumors seem to be quieting down a little bit, what happens? Another body turns up. This is reignited fear and speculation across this city. That's right, this week, for at least the 16th time this year, and just weeks after a cluster of discoveries sparked a citywide panic, Houston police pulled another body from the waters of White Oak Bayou. This is a chilling development that has everyone asking the same question all over again. What is happening? What is really happening in Houston? What is happening in these bayous? Now, here's a situation that set the internet on fire, okay? In less than 2 weeks last month, 6 bodies were pulled from different bayous around Houston. The timeline was very tight. The numbers really alarming, that it was almost impossible not to try to connect the dots here. Social media did just that. There were viral TikToks and Instagram posts speculating about a serial killer on the loose. But from day one, city leaders and police, they've been adamant that there is no evidence of a serial killer. But I want to rewind. I want to break down exactly how we got here to try to make sense. It all started in mid-September when the first body was found on the morning of September 15th in Brays Bayou. She was identified as 21-year-old Jade McKissick, a University of Houston student who had gone missing after leaving a Midtown bar. Now, investigators said preliminarily there were no signs of foul play, but then just hours later that same day, another body was recovered from Greens Bayou. He was identified as 43-year-old Rodney Ricardo Chapman. The very next day, September 16th, a third person, 24-year-old Seth Joseph Hansen, was found in White Oak Bayou. 2 days after that, on September 18th, a fourth body was discovered in Buffalo Bayou. He was 63-year-old Arnulfo Alvarado. And then on September 20th, a fifth body was pulled from Buffalo Bayou. That victim was 60-year-old Michael Andrea Rice. The sixth body found on September 26th in Buffalo Bayou downtown, initially unidentified, and at the time the medical examiner asked for the public's help in identifying her, describing her as a black woman under 30 years old, about 5'3", 120 pounds, short black hair. She was found wearing a black and beautiful t-shirt and jeans, with 888 tattoo wrist. According to the Houston Chronicle, this body has now been identified as Michaela Miller, though her age remains unknown at this point. So 5 bodies, 5 days, and a sixth just days later. So obviously, it was reported that the city was buzzing with both fear and speculation. And what happened in response? Mayor John Whitmire and Police Chief No Diaz held a press conference to address the rumors head on. That was back on September 23rd.
We do not have any evidence that there is a serial killer loose in Houston, Texas. Let me say that again. There is no evidence that there is a serial killer loose on the streets of Houston. If there was, you would hear it from me first.
He called the social media speculation false and frustrating. Chief Diaz and Homicide Captain Salam Zia then walked through the facts. Their dive team had recovered the bodies, but they doubled down on the mayor's claims that these cases are not connected.
There's no evidence, and I repeat, no evidence to suggest that any of these incidents are connected. In all of the 5 incidents, the medical examiner's office will determine the cause of death. The investigation into these incidents is pending the determination of the ME's office. For us as an agency, rumors stir fear and anxiety in our communities. It's important to rely on verified information and investigations.
And Captain Zia emphasized that their job was to follow the science and the evidence and not social media theories. So to help us understand the psychology behind this panic, we actually spoke with criminologist Dr. Debbie Goodman on a previous episode of Sidebar, and she explained why these theories spread so quickly.
First and foremost, the topic in and of itself of murder is so mysterious to people, right? As we know, it becomes very intriguing, very fascinating. So as soon as somebody thinks that there's any category of murder, whether a double homicide, quadruple, serial murder, mass murder, family-based, school-based, workplace-based, it really captures the attention. Now, in terms of the investigators themselves, they're really looking for fact patterns. First, they need to identify who are these victims. Is there any commonality? Are they of a similar demographic, right? So we would start there. And then the victimology is so important because we also want to look at the fact patterns. When we say fact patterns, when it comes to investigations, we're really just talking about the 5 W's and the H, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So we always start there with any type of murder case, but this whole idea of fascination and people really gravitating toward this type of case where we have bodies in a river and immediately people think, well, clearly it's got to be serial murder. But Jesse, part of what I do is I look at data analytics as a criminologist, and serial murders in our modern day society is really not as common as, let's say, decades ago. So the real concern today is actually mass murders. Social media really drives people's perspective. Now, is it fact or is it fiction? That's really up to the individual to determine. But again, because we know that any category of murder is so fascinating that people in 60 seconds or less will read the post, see the headline, listen to, a blog, a podcast, and make a determination. Now they're looking for how many likes, how many reposts, and all of a sudden, in a 60-second window, a decision has been made.
Now, she urged caution, trusting the investigators to do their work, noted that in the modern age with surveillance and technology, it is incredibly difficult for a serial offender to operate without leaving a digital trail. So with the official word from the city essentially being this is tragic but unconnected, this is when the story began to kind of fade from the headlines. But the Bayous have spoken again. This past Wednesday, on October 8th, the pattern repeated. Just after 8 a.m., callers reported a body in White Oak Bayou. Houston police, their dive team, they responded, recovering the body of a male, and police reported there were no obvious signs of foul play. And as with all the others, the final word on how this person died rests with the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences. Mayor Whitmire was again quick to comment, stating, "We have 2,500 miles of bayous. Like I said, they're not related. It's been politicized by candidates and others, which is unfortunate, probably not paying proper respect to the families." Now, that could be a fair point. He went on to attribute many of these tragedies to personal decisions, the harsh realities faced by the city's homeless population, and said when it comes to these serial killer theories, enough is enough. Quote, "I do say enough is enough on speculation out of respect for the families and also the 2.3 million Houstonians in our region. We have challenges. We're meeting those challenges, but a serial killer loose in Houston is not one of our challenges." So to break all this down, I want to bring on former FBI and CIA agent and adjunct professor of criminal justice, Tracy Walder, also a News Nation contributor. Tracy, thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see you. From your perspective, how would law enforcement initially determine whether you have a series of deaths, whether they are connected or whether they are completely random?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think obviously the first thing they're going to utilize is autopsies, right? What were the cause of death? Was it deemed to be a homicide, an accidental drowning, all of those things? And then if they are deemed to be homicides, are they similar in terms of, how they were killed? I think the other thing they're probably going to do is if they have any digital devices that are salvageable, obviously these bodies have been in water for some period of time, as well as any social media that they can get on. They might be looking in terms of whether or not any of these individuals, retraced similar steps, came from similar locations just prior to their deaths.
If you're talking, though, multiple bodies discovered in these different bayous over a short period of time, what would be the patterns you would be looking for? I mean, your perspective of this kind of case, Are there any red flags that would suggest to you there might be a connection? Is there any red flags that would suggest to you there could be a serial killer? And I had talked earlier about, you know, when we previously covered this, how serial killers there's a rarity about them right now. It's not so easy, particularly in today's day and age, given technology, for there to be a serial killer. But are there things that stand out to you about this that give you pause?
Listen, I think it's a lot of bodies. I hate to be so blunt, Jesse. I understand, you know, Houston, there are bayous, right? This is very common. There are waterways in these areas. That part's not unusual. But in my opinion, the volume, right? The volume over, you know, a 7-month period, or to me, is piques my curiosity. I guess that is what would start to get, you know, I don't mean to sound flippant or minimize the death, but one body or a few bodies, I understand these things happen, unfortunately. But when you have, in my opinion, 25 at one point, at 20 at some point, you know, I think that's when we get into issues here in terms of really needing to investigate these further and ensure that this isn't some kind of a targeted situation.
If you're dealing with one person or two people or a group that are committing multiple killings, would it be strange to you to leave digital evidence or footprints or any kind of, I mean, again, I go back to the idea of this is a day and age where almost everybody has a social media footprint, a digital footprint, there's surveillance all over the place. Would it be strange to you to see some sort of, if someone were committing this, evidence behind?
So interestingly, by putting the bodies in water, you are really destroying a lot of the evidence. And so part of me wonders if that is very convenient for them to be able to do, right? You don't have to necessarily clean, you know, a crime scene or clean a body and make sure that you haven't left any kinds of forensic evidence behind. Also, throwing a phone in water is really going to make a phone very difficult. I don't know if phones were on their bodies when they were found. That I wouldn't know. But let's just say they were. Everyone's attached to their phone in this day and age. It will make it very difficult and time consuming to try to obtain any kind of data from that. So in all honesty, putting a body in water is actually a great way to hide evidence.
Now, police, the city officials, they insist adamantly there's no evidence of a serial killer. When you hear that, in your experience, how often does social media, the speculation that you see on social media, and what the commentary online, does that conflict with the investigation, or does it help it? Because sometimes the public may know certain details that law enforcement doesn't, or they may be able to provide more information or clues or look into things. But how much does it conflict with an investigation?
Sometimes it can conflict in terms of just if it isn't true, right? Just the sheer volume, right, of calls and leads that they would have to investigate. And then what that can do is actually stifle legitimate investigations that these departments are conducting, right? Because they have this sheer volume of accusations that if it's an open crime, they have to investigate. That's something they have to do. So that can hurt, obviously, investigators. But it sounds to me that if they are very quickly saying none of this is nefarious, they're not necessarily, in my opinion, then open to taking leads in investigations, which is also problematic on the flip side, right? To quickly call something not a homicide and then not be open to other investigations around it. That's problematic too.
Now, there have been some key updates that we want to talk about, particularly from the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office. And this adds new layers to this story because 3 new identities from that September cluster that we mentioned earlier, we want to identify them specifically here about what we're talking about. So the victim found in the White Oak Bayou on September 16th has now officially been identified as 24-year-old Joseph Hansen. The man recovered from Buffalo Bayou on September 18th is 63-year-old Arnulfo Alvarado. And the final Bayou death from September, the one from the 26th, has been identified as Michaela Miller. Now, here's a crucial piece of new evidence. While the causes for Hansen, Alvarado, and Miller are still pending, the medical examiner has confirmed one cause of death, 33-year-old Anthony Azua, whose body was recovered back in March, died from drowning. Now, this is significant because it is one of the very few cases this year to get an official cause of death. For context, the medical examiner has now confirmed at least 22 bodies found in the bayous through September. And with this week's discovery, that number is now 23. So for the vast majority, we still don't know how they died. Tracy, how does this change the context? How does this change the analysis?
To me, it changes the analysis in that I don't think police should be so quick as to say that there's not a potential spree killer on the loose. I understand why police want to be careful, right? We don't want to create public panic. That's not our job, and that's very irresponsible to do. But it's also irresponsible to say, there are no links between any of these and not investigate all of that thoroughly. Now, clearly, it's going to take time. I don't know how long these bodies had been submerged in water to determine whether or not they died by drowning, other purposes, those kinds of things. But also they have to wait for toxicology reports to come back as well. And that takes a long time too. And so I'd be interested to know, potentially in the one that's been determined as drowning, if there were drugs in their system, what got them into the water in the first place. All of that is going to help in this investigation.
How common is it for a cluster of bodies to remain undetermined for months? What are the challenges when they're trying to determine if there is foul play here?
Again, length of body in water, right? Especially, and I don't mean to get into too many specifics, but it is Texas. It's very hot. It's very humid here. And that is going to decompose a body pretty quickly, especially in water. And so it's going to make it very, very difficult, that just sheer passage of time and where they were found.
If the FBI joins an investigation like this, when you're dealing with multiple bodies, what resources, what tools can they bring to an investigation?
So my guess is, because obviously it's Houston, Harris County, I don't feel confident that they will be called in because it is a large county with lots of resources. But typically in an investigation, if they are called in, they have to be asked. This is not a federal investigation. They aren't particularly there for investigative purposes. They are there for manpower purposes. So they are helping because they have that ability to go through evidence a lot more quickly than a local police department can, particularly digital evidence. Also forensic evidence, they can expedite that a bit more quickly, but they're not handling things that a medical examiner would be handling.
Now, going back to something we mentioned before, while city officials insist there's no serial killer, there are residents who have taken to social media to conduct their own investigations and post warnings online. For example, you have TikTok user Darius Sticker said this.
So as you know, we have a serial killer on the loose. So, that could possibly be my baby girl or my Kayla out there one day and get snatched up and get found in the bayou. That just really bothers me, And the police is clearly having a problem doing their job, right? Because I'm not understanding after the first body, why aren't there people staking out and watching? And then there were 5 bodies.
Another user, identified as Dre, promised payback on the supposed mass murderer.
To the Buffalo Bayou killer, I'm gonna be in your hood. Feel me? I'm gonna take a small little slow walk through the nighttime. If you're real, you won't bring a gun. If you're real, you just pull it with your hands.
Tracy, back to you. We talked about before about the role that the community can have, those on law enforcement. Public fear, public statements like this, how does it complicate the case?
We have to be really careful about, especially statements when we're saying, retaliation against the person responsible for this, because, even when we saw in the Idaho case, which I know you and I have talked about before, people are singled out who have nothing to do with any of this. And if you are talking about retaliation, which I'm assuming is violent, innocent people really could be heard. And that is where social media can be a great tool in terms of solving some of these investigations. But I do think it can be a pretty horrific tool as well. And I think that's exactly where we need to be careful.
Before we wrap things up, let me just ask you. I asked this about, I think, to my last guest as well. I'm going to ask you, serial killers today, how common is it?
I think it's more common than we would think, simply because there are so many places that people can go on the internet, and places like Discord, those kinds of things, to talk about these fantasies that they have, and it empowers them to act out those fantasies. These ideas are not occurring in a vacuum like they were maybe in the 80s and the 70s. They are occurring with people essentially egging them on in these digital spaces.
Here's the bottom line. Official investigation has not found a link between any of these deaths this year, at least hasn't been publicly made. But for a public watching, body after body after body being pulled from these areas, pulled from the water, the facts from the medical examiner, they can't come soon enough. We need answers. Tracy Walder, thank you so much for taking the time. It was great seeing you.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
And that is all we have for you right now here on
Every town has a dark side.
Austin police were alerted about a body being found along a walking trail near Lady Bird Lake in East Austin on Wednesday.
There are renewed concerns after a woman was recently found dead in Lady Bird Lake.
Austin police responding to a high priority call in zone 300 of Lady Bird Lake.
Concern among people who hang out near Lady Bird Lake Monday after the body of
More than 16 bodies, one lake, and a growing number of questions that have left an entire city on edge. For the past 16 years, Lady Bird Lake in Austin, Texas, has become the center of a disturbing mystery that continues to unfold at this very moment. Bodies keep appearing without explanation, only to be found days later under suspicious circumstances. While local authorities maintain these are tragic accidents, a growing number of Austin residents are questioning whether something more sinister might really be at play. Hey guys, it's Andrew, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Every Town, where today we're checking out an ongoing mystery taking place down in Texas. And 20 people found dead in Lady Bird Lake since 2008, and 12 of them since 2022. As the number continues to climb, the similarities between many of these cases have become impossible to ignore. And some survivors have interesting stories to tell. And whether or not these are just a bunch of coincidences, or the work of a killer, or perhaps a mix of both, is what we're digging into today. Let's head on over to Austin and check out the mysterious deaths of Lady Bird Lake. But to start off, Lady Bird Lake wasn't always called that. Created in 1960 as a cooling pond for a power plant, it was originally called Town Lake. The reservoir was renamed in 2007 to honor Lady Bird Johnson, the former First Lady who had worked to beautify its shores. This body of water stretches through downtown Austin, reaching depths of up to 18 feet, and has become a central feature of the city's outdoor recreation scene. It's surrounded by parks, trails, and some of Austin's most popular entertainment districts. The Ann and Roy Butler Hike and Bike Trail circles its perimeter, drawing joggers, cyclists, and pedestrians at all hours. And on its northern shore lies Rainey Street, a historic district transformed into one of the city's hottest nightlife destinations, packed with bars, restaurants, and food trucks. Despite its calm appearance, Lady Bird Lake has some powerful underlying currents, and its waters can be more treacherous than they seem. And because of this, swimming is officially banned by city ordinance. Though when the weather gets hot, people have been known to ignore this and take a dip despite the risks. And so unfortunately, there have been some drowning deaths reported here over the years. The ones that could have been avoided, but accidents happen. But all these hazards alone don't explain the disturbing pattern that started to emerge in 2008. A pattern that begins with a Lebanese-American school teacher named Raid Hamad. At 55 years old, Ray was a dedicated peace activist who had lived in the city for over 3 decades. He spent his time teaching business education, pursuing graduate studies at the University of Texas, as well as running a charitable organization called the Palestine Children's Welfare Fund, which sold Palestinian craft to support families in need. And the first death was one of the strangest of all because all the events leading up to it were out of the norm. See, in February of 2008, the FBI and IRS joined forces to raid his South Austin home, seizing 40 boxes of material related to his charity work as part of an investigation into alleged wire fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering. And no charges were filed, but on Monday night of April 14th, Ahmad's family reported him missing. His last known contact was a peculiar phone call to a colleague in California, during which he briefed her on the raids, things he had already covered in previous emails before abruptly ending the conversation. Within 24 hours, police used his cell phone to locate his car in a parking lot near South Lakeshore Boulevard. After an initial search, nothing turned up. But on Wednesday afternoon, a passerby on the north side of the lake spotted a body floating near the shore, just east of the I-35 bridge. It was Hamad. The condition of his body would spark years of speculation and controversy. And his eyes were wrapped in duct tape, as if the spool had been spun around his head. Both of his hands and legs were also bound. Despite the suspicious circumstances, investigators claimed the bindings were consistent with self-application. His arms, for example, were in front of his body, rather than wrapped behind his back. And so for them, officially it appeared like he had done this all to himself. But still, not everyone was convinced. And the case became even more controversial when Hamad's body was transported to the Islamic Center of Greater Austin for burial preparation. The imam there, Ibrahim Dramali, reported that in his 20 years of preparing bodies for burial, he had never seen one in such horrible condition. And he described the corpse as being in a barbaric state, with inadequate sutures, seeping blood, and flesh that appeared torn. And the state of the body was so disturbing that 2 experienced colleagues left the room in distress. As Dramali stated, it appeared like a wild animal had ripped him to shreds. His colleague back in California, the one who got the final phone call, suggested Hamad might have deliberately staged his death to cast suspicion on his perceived enemies. Others speculated about darker possibilities. And given his political activities and the strange condition of his body, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he was targeted. In the end, the Austin PD stood by their ruling, but Hamad's death would become even stranger in the years that followed, because it marked the beginning of what will become a disturbing pattern over at Lady Bird Lake. A few months later in June, Austin Fire and Rescue responded to an emergency call from a local fisherman early on a Sunday morning. They had been out on the lake when they thought they had spotted a body, though they weren't really sure. When responders went to investigate, there between the Holiday Inn and Interstate 35, they found the badly decomposed remains of somebody They were in such bad shape that at first they couldn't even determine the gender of the victim. It would later be discovered that the remains belonged to a missing mother and preschool teacher, Nazima Habibul. Nazima had vanished shortly after telling her fiancé that she was going to the local grocery store. Unfortunately, this is all we really know about her story, and no cause of death has ever been disclosed. And at the time her body was found, homicide investigations were ongoing, with inquiries directed at people close to her, but no further information was ever made available. Now, Nazima is an outlier in this whole mystery because she is one of the few female victims. But her story is definitely worth mentioning because it happened in the time frame, and as we try to piece together what exactly is going on here, we need to account for all the information. Now, 4 years passed before the lake claimed its next victim, but on February 7th of 2012, Eleno Valle, a 20-year-old student, was reported missing. For 10 days, the university community waited anxiously for news of their classmates' whereabouts. The answer came on a Monday morning when police received a call at 8:42 a.m. about a body in Lady Bird Lake. Valle was found near the intersection of Lavaca and Cesar Chavez Streets, and the police immediately began investigating it as an unaliving situation. Though the reasons for this quick determination were never fully explained to the public. And 2 years later, in 2014, 25-year-old Iran Rublik disappeared after what would have been a routine rideshare trip home. His last known location was precisely documented. An Uber driver had dropped him off outside the Holiday Inn near Interstate 35 around 2:30 in the morning. What happened next, though, remains a mystery. It wasn't until the following afternoon around 2:30 p.m. the two fishermen made the grim discovery. Rublik's body was floating in Lady Bird Lake. But how had a young man gone from being safely dropped off at a hotel to ending up in there? Rublik's death was officially ruled as an accidental drowning.
In 2015, 22-year-old Julio Santos III was home in Austin for a week after graduating before he was set to start a new job in Seattle, but his life was cut short.
Santos was last seen near a food truck across from the Barbarella Bar in downtown Austin at 2:30 a.m. His body was found just hours later, at 7 a.m. on the same day. His belongings were discovered behind the bar, including some of his cash and ID, suggesting he hadn't been robbed and that maybe he had chosen to go for a swim after having too much to drink, though nobody recalls him saying anything to that effect. His death was yet again ruled as an accidental drowning. However, his sister openly disagrees with this verdict, wants the investigation into her brother's death reopened.
I think he was drugged. I think he was overserved. I think he was lured over there in the river. I picture somebody hurting him and he's just left. We should be able to have fun and not have to worry about, our loved ones being found in the river and being told, oh, they just drank too much.
Then in October of 2018,
Travis County Sheriff's Office says a body found in Lake Austin earlier this week was the body of the man who went missing over the weekend. The body has been officially identified as Christopher White. He was last seen on Saturday morning.
After attending the festival on Friday, October 5th, the group returned to their accommodations near Lake Austin. Early the next morning, around 6 a.m., White, who appeared intoxicated, mentioned going to the dock, but was not seen leaving the house. Later that day, his friends noticed he was missing and reported it to the authorities. On October 8th, a passerby then made the shocking discovery. It was White's body floating in Lake Austin near a dock close to the rental property. The Travis County medical examiner ruled his death as an accidental drowning, with toxicology reports indicating the presence of ethanol and MDMA in his system. Lake Austin is part of Lady Bird Lake, the same body of water just a couple miles apart. Just a month after this, in November, Martin Gutierrez, 25-year-old Austin resident, disappeared after a night out in the increasingly popular Rainy Street district. The circumstances of his disappearance were particularly troubling. The security footage from his final hours showed him in what his brother would later describe as a completely uncharacteristic state.
We actually found some surveillance at an apartment complex nearby that showed Martin going towards the water, or what we thought was Martin, and it looked very similar to the way he was walking and everything, so we were almost quite positive it was, and we turned it over to the detective, and I just don't know how he got in the water. I don't know if he fell or if someone hurt him, or there's just so many questions unanswered.
This behavior was especially puzzling to his brother, who noted that they often went out drinking together, and Martin had never acted this way before. The search for the young man ended when his body was found floating in the waters near the area where he was last seen.
Officers pulled 25-year-old Martin Gutierrez's body from Lady Bird Lake on Monday. Yesterday, fingerprint technology confirmed it was him.
The discovery raised more questions than it answered. The autopsy revealed blunt force trauma to the back of his head, an injury that seemed a bit difficult to explain as simply the result of an accidental fall. This one was severe. However, without anything else to go on and no other clues or evidence, officials ruled his death an accidental drowning while intoxicated. So up to this point, you might be thinking that accidents happen, right? That, yeah, maybe there's an unusual amount of drownings happening here. But mix in a bunch of bars and young people and put it next to a large body of water, and bad things are going to occur. And while it may be true for some of these cases, the following story shifted the public perception as to what was really going on here in Austin. Because one of these young men who had been hanging out in this area survived his fall into the river, and he says it was no accident at all. On November 17th of 2019, 21-year-old Christian Pugh went out for what should have been just another night on the town with some friends. They headed to none other than Rainy Street, and it was pretty busy as usual. Like many of the victims before him, Pugh then vanished at some point during the night. His friends couldn't pinpoint exactly when or how he separated from the group, but those hours turned into days as people searched, fear growing with each passing hour. Unlike the other cases, well, this story would take an unexpected turn. Because 2 days after his disappearance, Pugh was found.
According to police, Pugh was last seen here at Clive on Rainy Street when he was reported missing, but this is nowhere near where he was found. He was actually found south of Lady Bird Lake, near the south end of the Congress Avenue Bridge, a drive that took us about 5 minutes. According to those who found him, Pugh was deep embedded into this brush right here, in between the water and the hike and bike trail.
And Pugh was conscious, but barely clinging to life. His body showed signs of severe trauma, broken ribs, a dislocated leg, things you'd expect from a fall off a bridge. He also had bloodied knuckles and a large welt on his head, and these things were more consistent with having been in a fight. The injuries were so extensive that he immediately was induced into a coma to help with the healing process, and it would last like that for a month. And meanwhile, the police classified this as another accident, suggesting Pugh had stumbled and fallen off of Congress Avenue Bridge. But when the young man finally emerged from his coma, well, he had more to add to the story. Unfortunately, the trauma of the whole thing had wiped his memory of most of the night, and there were a lot of blank spots, but he thinks he was assaulted and thrown over that bridge deliberately. Now, as a reminder, the police were not the ones to find Pugh. In fact, they waited over 48 hours before dispatching a search team. A short time after that is when that homeless man randomly found him. The police dismissed Pugh's claims, saying he thought that perhaps he was targeted. given some sort of drug, and then tossed over the side of Congress Bridge and left for dead. And the people in town at this point were realizing something was off with all this stuff happening, even if the authorities wouldn't. Pugh's case sparked the creation of a Change.org petition, asking the Austin PD to acknowledge that the drownings might not be accidents. And they wanted the cases to be taken more seriously. Within days, hundreds of concerned citizens had signed it. But even with this, the deaths didn't stop, and in fact, they multiplied in rapid succession. Beginning in mid-2022, the bodies started appearing with disturbing frequency. Between July of 2022 and February of 24, at least 12 more people were found dead in or near the lake. Ricky Parks was discovered in July of 2022, near 9 East Avenue. His investigation was quickly closed and no foul play was said to have been involved. On December 10th, an unidentified person was found near South Pleasant Valley Road and South Lakeshore Boulevard. Just 2 weeks later, on Christmas Day, another unidentified body was discovered near the pedestrian bridge along South Lamar. And 3 days after that, Kyle Thornton was found near the Congress Avenue Bridge. That's 3 bodies in less than 3 weeks. Coincidence? Or the work of a serial killer? Maybe a little bit of both. By now, among the Austinites, there were rumblings of the Rainy Street Killer on the loose. And those rumblings are right now only getting louder, because come 2023, things only got worse. On February 5th of that year, Jason John, known to friends as JJ, disappeared. The 30-year-old had moved to Austin during the pandemic, relocating from NYC with his puppy Ruffle, seeking new opportunities in Texas. Now, he was last seen walking from Rainy Street toward the Ann and Roy Butler hike and bike trail, a route that would become tragically familiar in these cases. 8 days of searching and his body was found.
Autopsy results for Jason John, who was found dead in Lady Bird Lake back in February, have been released.
And the Travis County Medical Examiner's Office has ruled the cause of death an accidental drowning.
March brought another devastating loss. The 40-year-old Clifton Axtell was found dead on the 5th. Axtell was a commercial real estate analyst on track to graduate from Harvard Extension School, where he consistently made the dean's list. My friends described him as a beautiful, bright ball of energy with fierce intellect and creativity. And he was deeply involved in his church, leading worship at Celebrate Recovery for 3 years. He left behind a wife, Megan, and 2 children. But the cause of death? The medical examiner was unable to determine it. It was explained as a natural event, that he had either entered the water on his own or fallen in. Because they didn't know which, they just left it as undetermined to play it safe. And before the city could even process Axtell's death, another tragedy struck. This time, 33-year-old Jonathan Honey would come to Austin for what should have been a celebration, a bachelor party with friends. March 31st, he was enjoying the city's famous food truck scene, and it would be the last time anyone saw him alive. His body was found the very next day in the water. And April brought another victim, 30-year-old Christopher Hayes Clark. And his death left a 12-year-old son without a father. Multiple 911 calls reported his body in the lake, leading into a water rescue attempt that came in too late. In June, Moga Dogal was found near the 1000 block of West Cesar Chavez Street. And like so many others, his death was quickly labeled as not being investigated as a homicide. But by this point, the similarities between the cases were becoming impossible to ignore. The victims were predominantly young men. Many had disappeared from the exact same area. Many were found in similar locations. And in case after case, the official explanation seemed to leave key questions unanswered. I mean, what really happened to these guys? Jeff Jones is another survivor of Lady Bird Lake. And this 38-year-old was visiting Austin for a bachelor party. And after a night out on West 6th Street, he was found severely injured under the 6th Street Bridge near Shoal Creek. Now, Jones had sustained multiple injuries, including broken vertebrae, a punctured spleen, and internal bleeding. Medical tests revealed the presence of rohypnol in his system, indicating he had been drugged that night. Now, Jones believes he was drugged and pushed off of the bridge, a theory that has raised concern about potential serial killings in the area. After all, he wouldn't be the first, but yet, the police do not seem to be taking this seriously.
5 bodies pulled from Lady Bird Lake in just 6 months. Jason John, Clifton Axtell, Jonathan Honey, John Christopher Hayes Clark, and now an unidentified man.
The most recent discovery came on February 5th of 2024.
Austin police responding to a high-priority call in Zone 300 of Lady Bird Lake around 8:15 Sunday morning. That's near Brazos and East Cesar Chavez Street. APD says that based on appearance, the body was a homeless woman in her 60s and that it looks like she was trying to stay warm based on her clothing and the position of her body. Police say there were no signs of drug or alcohol usage.
And that leaves us with over 16 cases, the majority of which took place in the last 3 years, all surrounded by an unmistakable air of mystery. In short, this is what we got. Many of the victims were young men in their 20s or 30s. A significant number were last seen in or around the Rainy Street district. And several victims disappeared in the early morning hours between 2 and 3 a.m. The Austin police have consistently maintained that there's no evidence linking these deaths together or suggesting foul play was even involved. They point to alcohol as a common factor, noting that many victims have been drinking before their deaths. The department emphasizes that the combination of alcohol and easy access to the lake, particularly through poorly lit areas, creates dangerous conditions. But that doesn't seem to be the whole story, because multiple victims showed signs of physical trauma. Several bodies were found far from where the victims were last seen, many of them showing up in parts of the lake that were opposite to the direction that the current flows, meaning there's more to their stories than just falling in. They walked around to other parts of the city. Where exactly, though, nobody knows. So let's dive into 2 of the most compelling theories surrounding the deaths at Lady Bird Lake. Now, the first one is, let's say, the most rational, though it comes with a big asterisk. See, Austin has undergone a major transformation in recent years. In just 4 years, the city's metro population has swelled from 2.17 million to 2.31 million. Each year brings a new wave. 52,000 new residents in 2022, another 46,000 in 23, and 46,000 more in 24. That's a lot of people. Around 1,000 new residents every single week, each chasing dreams of tech jobs and the freedom of Texas living. Now, this massive growth has rewritten Austin's identity. The streets that once housed local musicians and artists now showcase tech campuses and startup incubators. The city's famous weird culture drowns under waves of development, leaving a landscape where homeless encampments huddle in the shadows of gleaming luxury high-rises. Some apartments renting for more than what entire houses cost just a decade ago. And the area around Lady Bird Lake embodies this transformation. Old music venues that launched legends like the Dixie Chicks and Lyle Lovett have vanished, replaced by towering condos. Former hippie hangouts and vegan cafes that once prioritized feeding the community over profit have given way to upscale restaurant and bars. This rapid change has created a perfect storm of conditions around the lake. University students under immense stress from Austin's rising cost of living, mixed with the city's unhoused population, creating a volatile environment. Bars and clubs overflow with revelers every weekend, adding to the chaos. The lake's winding trails, often dimly lit and with numerous access points to deep water, provide the ideal setting for tragedy to unfold in an instant, especially when all the new people don't know what's around the next bend. So through this lens, the string of drownings takes on a grimly logical aspect. A late night on Rainy Street, where drinks flow freely and crowds spill into the streets until the early hours of the morning. The lake is just a few blocks away, its edge often unguarded. A little stumble is all it takes. A misstep could easily lead to disaster. But then there's the other theory that continues to linger.
With several bodies surfacing over the past 2 years in and around Lady Bird Lake, rumors of a serial killer have been brought into question.
Although the police dismiss this notion, the pattern of deaths seem to point to something far more sinister going on. A predator intentionally targeting victims. And what better place to do it, really, than where there's tons of people and tons of alcohol? And people have foggy memories. And if anything is to happen, well, it's easy to blame it on the bars and restaurants sitting so close to the water. Here, the lake's edge combines tourist spots where people gather to watch the famous Austin bats, isolated hiking trails and water access points, creating countless opportunities for anybody with malicious intent. Advocates of this theory note disturbing details that seem to transcend mere coincidence. There's the unexplained trauma found on multiple victims. The curious fact that the bodies sometimes appear far from the victims' last known locations. Then there's the case of Martin Gutierrez, who was seen on camera stumbling as if he had been drugged. The case of Christian Pugh, who survived but can't remember what happened to him. Again, possibly drugged. The case of Jeff Jones, who was convinced he was drugged and pushed off of the bridge, with the toxicology reports backing him up. Despite these unsettling signs, local law enforcement continue to maintain that each death has been thoroughly investigated and deemed either accidental or unexplained. But history has shown that many deaths in many cases have been initially written off as coincidences until the real perpetrator is finally caught. As I mentioned, it doesn't have to necessarily be one or the other. The truth most likely lies somewhere between these two theories. It's possible that Austin's rapid growth alongside the changing demographics and an influx of people has created the ideal conditions for both accidents and predatory behavior to thrive unnoticed. Regardless of where you stand, one thing is certain. For many in Austin, Lady Bird Lake is no longer seen as just a peaceful urban retreat. And it's become a place of uncertainty where safety feels compromised. With so many unexplained deaths, it seems like they need to take the simple steps first. More lighting in the dark areas of the park, more surveillance cameras too, and of course guardrails along the water's edge. Then they can answer once and for all what exactly is happening and either help put a stop to the accidents or put a killer behind bars.
Cultfigga. Follow me.